Hey everyone. Uh, I'm a cinematographer. I've been freelance for about 4 or 5 years now. And I guess I'll get into my background. I started when I was probably 12 or 13 years old doing skateboard videos with my friends. And one day doing skateboard videos, I broke the fisheye lens off my camera. And my mom had, taken it to a camera repair store, and the guy said it wasn't even worth fixing. And if I wanted to continue doing this type of stuff, to look at this camera. And it was a professional camera. It was a few $1,000s, way out of my budget for being a 13-year-old kid. And I knew it was something that I wanted to do. So I saved my money. I saved every single penny that I could get for probably like 6 months, and finally had the money to get it. And, oh, thank you. And from there I bought it and was hooked. That was it. I went through high school still doing skateboard videos, and I graduated, came here to Ferris State with the idea of going through the TDMP program, still want to do skateboard videos. That was it. That was everything for me. And as time progressed, going through the program and kind of reaching out, doing other projects, doing music videos and everything, I realized that wasn't everything, that there was so much more that I wanted to do. And I graduated. I had gotten 2 internships on the same day and could not choose between both of them. So I ended up doing both. I did, which, was a struggle. The first one I did was with a company called Vision 3 in Grand Rapids. Derek Rotman, who's another Ferris grad. And it was primarily post. And I think that was something that I looked for when I was getting out, because I wanted to do everything. I didn't want to just shoot. I didn't want to just edit. I wanted to be able to do everything. And I wanted to own my own production company. So I decided I was going to focus on post, because that's where I was weakest, I felt. And I did that for 3 months. And then when that internship was over, I did my second internship at a company called Gorilla. It was also in Grand Rapids. And when I got into it, they were in the middle of post for a 7-episode TV series. And I got in as a junior editor and was able to start working on stuff. And because of my experience working with Derek, working freelance, I was able to excel there. And after that internship was over, they offered me a spot in their collective. So I was still freelance, but I was involved with them. I had an office with them, and my work was they were the ones that gave me all my work. So, but as that kept going, I realized I just wanted to shoot. I just wanted the opportunity to shoot. And it was really hard to break into that world of shooting after you're kind of stuck doing primarily post. You're seen as somebody who just does post. So I kind of did what I thought worked for me again, and I saved all my money. And I had to do it piece by piece, but I bought a Red camera. And it took me, again, months to do it. And from there, I just started shooting my own stuff. And finally, once that happened, someone gave me the opportunity to shoot a commercial project. And it just kept happening. I just kept doing it, doing all sorts of different projects. And I was offered a position to be a B camera on a documentary that was shooting all through Europe. I think we started in Denmark, and over the course of a month, drove south through into Italy, filming the entire way. And I think that was probably the most beneficial experience for me, moving into being a director of photography, because I worked so closely with the DP of that project. And it was funny, we were traveling back. Wasn't even back in Grand Rapids. I think I was in New Jersey on a layover, and I got a call. And the call was from another company asking me, hey, can you go shoot this thing in London tomorrow? And I did it. And from there, it just snowballed. Just constantly working and constantly traveling, and it's been great. But yeah, moving on. What is cinematography now? What does a cinematographer do? Cinematography is defined as the art of making motion pictures, and that's a pretty accurate thing. It, in my opinion, is the most technical art that there is. As a director of photography, you literally paint with light. You are creating your image with light. And not only light, it's going to be how the camera is perceiving that light. And that's everything. That's how you create different moods. You can create a very high-key, bright image, usually used for commercial stuff, or you create a very contrasty, dark one. It's going to be used for narrative stuff. It all depends on the story. And it's all, I mean, it's your job to visually tell that story through lighting, through camera, through movement. And yeah, so to do that, a director of photography or cinematographer will lead both the camera and the grip and lighting departments. They are, I mean, that's what they do, you know? They're going to decide beforehand what the look of the scene is, what the look of and the feel and everything, and then they're going to be able to tell, say, their first assistant camera to focus on this, do this, move everything around. Their grip and lighting departments are going to be able to shape and create light depending on the scene. So that being said, everything that goes into that sensor on the camera is the job of the DP. So what does it mean to be a cinematographer? It's going to mean that you're going to work with the director to visually create their story. So a director, a lot of times, they're going to try and build the world for you. And they're going to try and tell you, like, you know, this is what this actor's feeling, this is this, and this is where we're going to be. But it's your job to make that visually a reality through the camera. And a DP must, to be able to do this, a DP must choose the right camera, the right lenses, the right lighting equipment, and the right crew to do it. I mean, a Red camera or an Alexa camera, everything, it's not a do-all thing. Each camera is going to have its different ups and downs. And each workflow is going to have different ups and downs as well. And each lens, even, you know, any different focal lengths, any different type of lenses, they all are going to have different characteristics that are going to be able to help tell that story. So because of that, not only is it just different cameras, lights, and lenses, you're going to also have to work with different budgets, different shooting styles, whether somebody wants everything on a dolly, very smooth, or if somebody wants to use handheld stuff to create more of a action feel or more of a home video style feel, something like that. And then there's also different timelines. How fast does this need to be done? All of this can play into what decisions you make as a cinematographer to get that image. There are three different styles that I would say are most common. Commercial style, which a lot of times is defined by more high-key lighting, more beauty lighting. There's also commercial, like sports style stuff, which is going to be a little bit more contrasty, focused on backlight, and just really, you know, making it look cool. Documentary style, which, I mean, it varies quite a bit. I mean, you can go into a location in a foreign country, and you kind of have to work with what's there. You're not going to have the luxury of having a full crew or a bunch of lights or anything to be able to create this. So how are you going to go into this environment and create a beautiful image utilizing what you have in that location? So that it becomes a challenge. And it's not all about creating the light, but utilizing it. And then there's narrative style. Any sort of feature film, short film, anything, that's all going to be narrative. And that's going to be, in my opinion, the most creative. That's going to be where you're going to be able to visually tell that story, because you don't have, with commercial, you're going to have a client saying, you know, oh, we need this person to be brighter, or we need, you know, I don't know, commercial stuff is not always the funnest. But with narrative, you can be as creative as you want as far as being able to tell that story. And then local jobs and travel jobs, those are all, I mean, they're two very different animals. A lot of times with local jobs, you'll have the ability to get crew members on that you know and trust. And that is everything. Because as a DP with your crew, you have to trust your crew and your crew has to trust you. Because sets are high stress environments. No matter what, you're trying to accomplish a lot with a short amount of time. I don't think I've ever been on a set where there was ample amount of time to do everything, and it just doesn't happen. And on top of that, you have money involved. A lot of times, there are commercial sets that are $500,000 that you have to make sure that everything you are doing is right on that day. Because if it's not, that's money down the drain that you can't do that. You can't let something happen with the camera. You can't have your white balance be off, because that's going to add money in post to be able to try and fix that. You can't let something be out of focus because that's a whole nother take. That's more time. And so there is a lot of pressure. And a lot of times with travel jobs and international work, that's amplified because you're working with people you don't know. You're working with people you don't necessarily trust. You can have all the recommendations in the world, but you don't know how you guys are going to work together. So it creates a challenge as a cinematographer, and you need to always be on point because you are the tip of that spear. You are everything visual. So it's challenging, but damn is it fun because it's a challenge. And it's a challenge every day that you're shooting because you're able to do something you love, consistently be challenged, and I mean, you have some amazing experiences as well. Yeah, with international stuff. So I've had a lot of opportunities to travel internationally. Been very, very fortunate. This photo right here is a place in China, technically contested between China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken. And I went there. I went there to film a route at a farm for a commercial client. I actually showed up, had no idea where I was going. I hopped on a plane from Beijing with no clue where in the world I was going. It was terrifying. We had gone from doing a commercial job in Shanghai and Beijing, and we had our client who, they were like, well, you're in China, you're like, can you shoot this? Can you shoot this other thing west? We don't know exactly where it is, but it's west. Sure. So we went down from a crew of probably 24, 25 people to a crew of 3 and a translator. And we were gonna go shoot something west. I got on a plane. We traveled for about, I want to say 6.5, 7 hours, landed. And I had the, bite the data charges because I needed to know where the hell we were. And I ended up, we were in a small Chinese city just south of Mongolia. And if you don't know where specifically that is, neither do I. So, but that wasn't it. We hopped on another flight, and it was, by that point, we were all exhausted. Like, we had been traveling for 12 plus hours, just going to the airport, getting on the train in Beijing and everything. And didn't realize, everybody on this plane is Muslim. And it's like, oh, well, where are we going? I didn't know there was a big Muslim population in China. There is. About 200 miles away from the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. And that's where we were shooting. At this time, this was about 3 years ago now, tensions were pretty high. And I didn't know that in that area, tensions were that high. When we got out, there was a lot of military personnel around. We actually landed in a military air base, which was fun, where one commercial flight came in and out a day. And oh boy, did not realize what we were getting into. And we were there, and we were told not to leave our hotel rooms at night. We were always accompanied by our local contact who did not speak any English. And we shot stuff. We shot stuff on this farm. And I think we were shooting for 2 or 3 days before the Chinese military, who were policing the area, banged on our door at about 5 in the morning and demanded to see all of our footage because they didn't know what we were up to. And they needed to know what we were doing there because apparently we were the first Americans who had been there in like 10 plus years. So that was fun. So we had to show them all of our footage, show them that we were legit, that we were just there to film this thing. And they said, you need to leave tomorrow. And we're like, sweet, perfect. That's exactly when our flight's going out. We're gone. And they had told us that we had upset some of the locals there and that there was a lot of tension with people there because they were scared that there was going to be another attack. We said, another attack? The day before we got there, there had been a suicide bombing at their bus station, which was pretty close to the airport that we flew into. And we were like, oh, well, we should go. And we left, and I've never been happier to be on a flight for 12 hours. So that was fun. But that whole experience, as kind of terrifying as it was being in this area and having no idea, I look back on it as being one of the most beneficial experiences I think I've had, not only in my career, but in my life. Because you saw a very different way of life. And that to me was so beneficial moving forward. And it was awesome. And I don't think I would have gotten that opportunity if it wasn't for filmmaking. But yeah. This was another still from the farm that we were shooting at during a dust storm, which happened frequently. It was not fun cleaning cameras with that, but yeah. And then last week, I was in Brazil shooting another job, and this was a still that we were shooting. We were shooting in the local market, and I don't know. I just really liked this still because I don't know. It was just something about being able to go out and shoot in these areas. Like you're able to connect with people. It's not like you're going on vacation in any of these areas. You don't stick around a hotel. You're able to go out into these remote areas and meet people and experience life that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. It's where I've really been fortunate with being able to do the amount of international stuff that I have. That it's been awesome. Been very fortunate. Cameras. My favorite part of this entire job is being able to work with cameras like this. So this here is a red Epic W. It shoots in 8K in the whole raw workflow. So basically, when the sensor is recording, it's not just recording what you're seeing on screen. It's recording a flat image that has no LUT data on it. Therefore, it's very, very malleable in post, in color. You can kind of create a lot of images with it. And it's one of the tools that we use quite a bit. So attached to it, we have our matte box for filters, whatever kind of filters, if you're using ND filters, polarizers, graduated filters if you're trying to capture sunsets and stuff that. Oh, thanks again.
You could take that out.
Ooh, wireless.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best. So utilizing filters is very beneficial for cinematography because you're able to capture different images. and you're able to just change what you're seeing through the lens as is. And from there, we have this lens, which is a 35 millimeter Leica Prime. It is a vintage lens, which was created in, I think it was the 80s. And using vintage lenses on these modern sensors it's really beneficial because you're able to create more of a filmic look. You're not stuck to very modern commercial style look. You're able to create more of a filmic look while also not using film. And then this here is the body itself with a bunch of accessories attached. You have an EVF, onboard monitor. We also have another monitor here that's all touch screen. We have a wireless focus motor. So what you're able to do is utilize this handset. Your first assistant camera is going to be able to utilize this handset to pull focus for you as you're operating. So if you're doing any sort of handheld work, dolly work, anything like that where focus is changing, you as an operator can focus on what the camera is doing versus the focus. And that is huge. We usually use 2 batteries on these. That way you're able to pull one off, change battery without turning the camera down. I'm also using a VCLX battery down here that lasts for about 8 hours or so, keeping the camera consistently powered on. Because any bit of downtime with the camera, especially when you're in the heat of things, is not good because it's just very fast-paced environments. And then let me do this. Ooh, it varies. So right now, because if I try and shoot any less than 8K with this camera, it crops in on the sensor. So I try and shoot 8K as much as possible. But if I'm trying to do slow motion stuff, I usually have to crop in because of data rates and how much that all goes. So I can crop in with 6K and get up to, I think, 72 frames. Less than that, I can get up to about 300 frames per second with this camera, which is great. So we have in here these mags. These ones are 480 gigabytes a piece. Depending on what style of shoot it is, we usually burn through about 2 to 3 of them per shoot, which is great when we get in the post. So there's that, but I mean, a lot of the workflow will usually be shooting on these mags and then giving it off to a DIT or a digital image technician who is then going to download, process the data, and usually color it on set just to give some sort of reference to what the final look will be. But that's usually on bigger sets. Documentary stuff is very different. So most of the cinematography cameras today that you're going to commonly come across are the Reds. The Epic W is one of the newer ones. They also have a full frame one called the Monstro, which is like 80 grand. I don't personally think it's worth it, but I don't know, I've never shot on it, so we'll see. The Arri Alexa and the Alexa Mini, which are the biggest competitors for Red, they really focus on giving a very filmic look. They're going to try and make their image look as close to film as possible. And then the Phantom high-speed cameras. There's the Flex 2K, which shoots 2,500 frames at 2K, so you can get extremely slow. And then the Flex 4K, which shoots 4K, you can do 1,000 frames at 4K. Both of which are awesome cameras. I've used them both. And to light for Phantom versus standard stuff is very different because of the amount of light. You need significantly more light to get those frames than what you would shooting even 24 to a few hundred frames with the Reds because they're just very, very different cameras. Lenses. So two types of lenses that are used primarily, which are going to be spherical lenses, just standard lenses that you would use on most cameras. A lot of the top tier ones that I've used are going to be Arri Ultra Primes, Cooke S4s, Leica Summilux, and then Ingenue zooms. And then there's anamorphic lenses, which if you've seen a lot of feature films that are in widescreen and you see the flares that streak across that are blue, those are all going to be anamorphic lenses. A lot of them give you just more cinematic characteristics. You're going to have a lot more shallow depth of field because they're stretching an image. That's very technical, I know, but just going about it. So on here in this photo, I have a Fuji 45-250 zoom. This was a job that we were doing for NASCAR. We were just shooting cars and crowds, and to do that, we needed a very long zoom. I actually think we had a doubler on this as well, effectively making it a 90-500 zoom. And that was very hard to track cars going very fast. Yeah, so it all depends on the job. Personally, I own two sets of lenses. I own a set of Leica Summilux primes, and then I own a set of Lomo anamorphic primes. But yeah, for a lot of jobs, like we will rent lenses to cater to whatever we're shooting, because there are so many different characteristics of so many different lenses that it kind of makes sense just to be able to rent the right one for the job. So yeah, we do rent quite a bit. Lighting. There's a lot of lighting tools that a DP can use. HMI lights, which are daylight balanced, that will work with sunlight. So in that photo right there, I'm using an Arri Max 18K. So it's nicknamed the sun because it is a huge, huge light. And that's kind of the idea of it, is to mimic the sun. So if you have an exterior, and like this day, we were cloudy, or varying clouds, but we needed to consistently shoot through this because we were doing one takes. It was a 30-second one shot, no cutting or anything, and we were seeing about 270 degrees around us as well at any point in the shot. So we needed to have consistent sunlight throughout that entire scene. So that's where we needed to use this very big light, and then we needed to have it hidden as well. So that's why we put it up on that condor, and it was tucked behind some trees, so therefore when we panned around, we would not see it. Then there are tungsten lights, which are going to be balanced to 3200 degrees Kelvin. It's a lot of the similar lights that you're going to see in studios. All vary in sizes, anywhere between 150s and 20Ks. Fluorescent lighting, which is another really nice source. It's very soft. A lot of times you can get bulbs that are going to be different color temperatures as well, depending on what you need to shoot. Say you need to use, say you need to balance something to a lamp. You need more light coming from a lamp, but you're looking at the lamp as well. So you can't be this huge bright source. What you can do is take a fluorescent, very soft fixture and hide it, usually a little bit higher up or somewhere off to the edge of frame with the same color temperature as that lamp, and be able to mimic that while also having more softer, better quality light than you would normally get from that lamp. You can get different, you can do daylight ones with that as well. So if you need to do the same type of thing with mimicking window light or anything like that, fluorescent fixtures are really good with that. And then there's LED lighting, which is probably one of the most beneficial things that's come to cinematography in the past few years, because LED is extremely, extremely malleable. A lot of times with most LED fixtures, you have multiple color temperatures that you can use. You can have one light that will do any different color temperature. You could have it mimic a lamp. You could have it mimic sunlight. You can have it do anything. And on top of that, they're extremely powerful. And some of them, such as a light mat, are very thin. So say you're shooting in an elevator. You need a scene of somebody going in an elevator. How are you going to light that? How are you going to be able to bring that up? A lot of times what you can do is utilize this light mat and stick it against whatever wall that you're not going to see, and you have light coming in directionally versus whatever you're stuck in there with. You don't need C-stands, you don't need any sort of stand in there, and it's just perfect light, very quick. It's very nice. Crew. Oh, man. Like I said before, your crew is everything. They really are. You need to be able to trust these people because they are going to be the ones that are getting everything set for you. They're going to be the ones that, they're going to be the ones that need to make sure that the camera stays powered on, that the camera doesn't roll out on the mag. You're not overloading whatever's on the mag. You're going to be able to, you need to trust them safely with your lenses. You need to trust them with everything. Make sure stuff doesn't get broken. You need to make sure that lights are being set up properly. And so having a crew that you trust is huge. On the camera side of things, you have your first AC. They're going to be the ones that are going to be right next to you the entire time. They're also going to be the ones who are going to be pulling focus. And then you have your second AC. They're going to be the ones running batteries. They're going to be the ones handing stuff off to first AC. They're going to be the ones doing, moving carts, doing everything when you have different locations. And then you have your DIT, or digital image technician. They're going to be the ones that you're handing off your mags to. They're going to be the ones that are going to process the image and handle all the data stuff that can happen on set. And then you have a camera PA who is going to be the one, he's also going to be running, a lot of times they're running water bottles or getting different cables, doing whatever you need. They're just there to make sure everything else flows smoothly and your first and second AC can stay as close to you as possible. On your grip and electric side of things, you have your gaffer. He is the lead of the lighting department. He's the person that you're going to go to and say, hey, this is the look that I want to create. And he's going to be the one that is going to figure out exactly how to get that look, what fixtures to use, and then he's going to delegate those responsibilities to his crew underneath. Your key grip, he or she is the one who's going to be the lead of the grip side of things. And the best way to differentiate between the grip and the lighting departments is that the lighting department or electricians, they're going to be the ones who create the light. And then the grip department is going to be the ones who shape and mold that light into whatever style that you want. So you have your key grip, you have your best boy. You have your dolly grip. They're going to be the ones pushing dolly, leveling track. That guy with the beard right there, that's Trevor. He was the dolly grip for that day in that studio shoot. Casey, who's handling that 10K light that's bouncing into that ultra bounce, he was the lead electrician. And then Matt, who's hanging out back there in the back, not doing much, he was my gaffer. All great people, all people that I trust with everything. And yeah, good crews. Other departments that a cinematographer is going to work very closely with is their production designer. Production designer is going to be the person who kind of sets the set. They're going to be the one to use any sort of props, wardrobe, everything. They're going to be the lead of that. So as a cinematographer, you have to work very closely with these people because they need to know exactly like what is going to look best on camera. So sometimes if you have a tighter pattern on any sort of fabric thing that's not going to read well on camera, you can work with them to switch that out or do whatever you need. Wardrobe, same thing, just working very close with somebody, making sure clothing and everything works. Like with your lighting, if a bright white shirt is not going to work well if you're blasting them with a light. Your script supervisor, it's going to be the person who's making sure with the script that everything's staying on point. DP's got to work very close with them as well, just to know exactly like what's moving, where continuity errors may be, and that sort of thing. Locations, it's going to be the person who is in charge of locking down your locations, and they're also the liaison between, if you're shooting in a live location, if you're shooting out on the street, they're going to be the person that's going to be able to, clear if you need to put a light out on the sidewalk. They're the one that's going to be able to clear that. VFX, a lot of times I work very closely with VFX supervisors if we're doing anything that involves VFX in post. That way we make sure that we're shooting exactly what VFX needs to accomplish what they're trying to do. And then post-production color. It's huge. They're going to be the ones that are going to dial in and finish the look that you create on set. It's been great. A lot of people use DaVinci Resolve. It's kind of the industry standard right now to color. And as a DP, like I make it a priority to sit in on every color sesh for the projects that I do, because it really is, it's finishing the look. And sometimes if a colorist isn't on set, they're not going to know exactly what you were going for. So it is very important to kind of keep in touch with that. Yeah, I guess I'd like to go through some of the projects that I've done recently, and then I can talk through some stuff about how we got there, what the project was, and go from there. All right.
This magic moment, so different and so new, was like any other until I kissed you, and then it happened. It took me by surprise. I knew that you felt it too. By the look in your eyes, this magic moment.
So that project was an example of something that we just did for fun. It was something that me and some people that, ooh. So yeah, that was an example of something that we just did for fun. And that I think is super important as a filmmaker, to just be able to go out and do something for fun. We had just bought a Phantom high-speed camera, so that's what that was. That was shooting at 1,000 frames per second. We're just like, you know what? Like, let's go do something. Let's go shoot something cool, and that's what we did. So yeah, I guess that's my way of saying, like, you need to, as much work as you're going to get into, and no matter what it is, you need to always be focusing on the fact that, like, you're a filmmaker and you need to go do fun stuff to keep everything moving. Because once you hit a creative lull, if you're doing a bunch of commercial projects, like, that's not fun. So go out and create. So that one was a commercial for a men's clothing store. They'd kind of come to a filmmaker friend of mine who just wanted to do something that was Wes Anderson inspired. And so that's where we decided on doing a one-shot. And yeah, it ended up being really cool, but it had its challenges. Big challenge was budget. There wasn't a lot of budget involved with this project. So what it came down to was trying to create what we could with a smaller amount of budget, and then utilize a lot of practical sources in the room for lighting, and then keep everything very minimal, because a lot of the budget went towards the Fisher dolly that we were using. So with creating that, you had to create this world with very, very minimal stuff, and still have it look cinematic, have contrast, and highlight the stars that were involved.
Childhood, what is that? My father was a chronic alcoholic who used to beat my mother for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. store, buy us candy. And he did that to gain my trust, only to start molesting me.
So, yeah.
I was only 8.
Is there a way to get sound over this as well?
They say God protects little children. Well, if so, why he didn't protect me? God didn't love me and God wasn't real. So I'm raging and I'm angry. I start running away from home. It's like running towards the light, but you can never reach that light. The man pulled up to me, asking me what's wrong. He presented very well. He steady taking me to the bars, buying me things. He steady telling me he loved me, and see, I never heard the word love. And one day, we went to his friend's house.
Yeah.
When I came to, his friend was on top of me having sex with me any way he wanted to. The one who said no one will ever hurt me, who said he loved me, he said to me, bitch, get my money. I was only 15, but my life as I knew it then was over. I was taken to a house where there were other women, and that's called a stable. And I was told, if you run, if you go tell the police, I'm killing your mama, your son, your brother, and your sister. I was trained like a child soldier, and I turned my first trick at 15. My life went on like that for over 20 years. Who's gonna come looking for me? Women like me from the streets. If Johns don't kill us, Pips don't kill us, or we don't die of overdose, we kill ourselves. I tried to commit suicide. As I was dying, I said, if there's a God in heaven, if you're real, help me, man, help me. Something hugged me so tight. The hug I never received, I got. And that's when I put myself in rehab. I had to learn how to forgive those who hurt me. My cousin, my dad, I had to forgive my pimp. I had to forgive everyone in order to set myself free. And I did. I knew the fight was on. I want people to know when they go to sleep at night, evil rears its ugly head. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It has no gender and it has no time. Some angels were called to pray. Some of us were called to fight. I'm a street fighter. I go back into the dark and bring others out. This is an evil that must be fought, and I can't fight it alone. These women need you. These children and men need you. And we'll win. We'll win.
Thank you. That is a true story. This was a project that kind of fell in my lap. And man, yeah, it started out as just an interview with Leslie, and grew to so much more. We had heard her story through the interview, and it was a very small crew. It was a small nonprofit thing that as filmmakers, we all realized that there was so much more to this story than just that interview, and we did everything we could to be able to tell that the way that we wanted to tell it. So it was almost like a doc-style narrative. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to kind of explain a piece like that because it is so emotionally powerful. Because that is her story. So for me as a cinematographer now, this project, just being able to tell her story was so beneficial. And I think it reminded me why I am a filmmaker, why I'm a cinematographer. And it's projects like that that I think keep everybody moving forward, no matter what. So if you ever have an opportunity to tell a story like that, do it. Yeah, Q&A.
We're having some technology challenges because now this microphone is dying, but you can hear me okay. We'll have a few minutes for questions now. So does anyone have a question they'd like to offer? Go ahead, just speak up, please.
So how do you travel with a red camera?
Ooh.
What red code ratio do you shoot out with?
It all varies project to project. So some places that I've traveled, I've had to pack the camera up in a backpack with a couple lenses and, hide stuff and check luggage to get it across borders. And then other times we've traveled in with, 15, 20 cases of stuff. So it all varies. And then with red coat as well, which if you guys aren't familiar, red coat is the amount of compression on the raw that the red itself is shooting. It varies again. For a lot of VFX stuff, I'll choose a lower code, like a 5:1 compression ratio. For most standard things, it's usually 8:1. And then if I'm doing travel stuff where we need to roll quite a bit on a mag and we don't have the opportunity to offload to a DIT, between 10 to 14:1. And then with the resolution that these things are shooting, that doesn't necessarily matter as much. Because when you're shooting full 8K, your compression ratio, because of the amount of pixels, it doesn't affect the image as much. So with 8K, you can shoot a higher compression ratio and have it look the same as, say, 6K on a previous red camera. I'd say for me, it's 80% production on the day. 10%, it's maybe more than that, because you need to, pre-production, I feel like as a cinematographer is very important because you need to know going into the project, you're gonna have all the tools and all the crew and you know exactly what you're shooting on the day. And then post-production, I don't personally do that much in post-production. I think the only thing I really do in post-production is sit in on the color sessions and give my input there. That just kind of fell upon me. I was very lucky. And to address that, buying a red camera will not by any means just project you in the shooting. I got super lucky again. It was probably not a smart decision on my part because that was like $15,000 to $20,000 that could have not paid off and I could have still been doing post-production right now. So that's not the answer. But yeah, travel was kind of a happy accident because I had the camera. That's how I got the opportunity to be a second camera on that documentary traveling through Europe. And I've kind of felt like once somebody sees that you have an opportunity, whether somebody else has given it to you or you've had to create it for yourself, then other people will follow suit. So because I had that opportunity and I had traveled, I felt like somebody else had seen me do that and knew, okay, this person can do that. Let's give them this opportunity. So it all kind of goes from there. And building trust, that's another thing. Good question. So budgets vary project to project. I actually probably should have put on a more commercial piece on there. So projects that I've worked on have had budgets that have varied between $500,000 for a one-day commercial shoot. That was a Dish TV national spot, and down to $0. What I found out with owning my own equipment is you're able to bring a higher level of production to those smaller projects because you're able to choose with, you're able to choose how much you want to take in rental on your equipment, or if you want to take any rental at all. But I'd say for most projects, if it has money, then you should be charging for your camera. You should be charging for your lens. You should be charging for all of your equipment, because on any standard thing, that's what is budgeted. You have a budget for camera, you have a budget for lighting, you have a budget for everything. So again, it all varies project to project, but specific numbers I don't have, because again, all very different. Cool. So that project was a bit of an oddity. I had never been in that situation before, but I'd say typically like Brazil last week, where I shot the photo of the guy in the market. He just came up to us and stood there and almost posed. I'd say it all depends on where you are and how you are going about interacting with these people as well, especially when there's language barriers. That's huge. And yeah, it all kind of depends. I'd say for the most part, I feel like we've been welcomed in a lot of these areas, because it's not something that typically people do. You don't typically go, 12 hours outside of a major city in Brazil and go shoot in this small village that, you just don't do that. So, yeah, I don't know. I've found it very beneficial, and I like to think at least that they want to show other people what their life is like. So, yeah, hope that answers your question. Ooh, what is something I learned outside of the TDMP program that benefited me? It's hard to say.
Doing your taxes.
Doing the tests. No, I was not doing the tests. But, oh man, I'd say just learning about different styles of lighting. I think, and being able to utilize that creatively, I think was extremely beneficial for me. Because there's only so much time here that you have to learn the basics, and it's so good to learn those basics here, because you're giving so many opportunities here to go out and shoot stuff, go out and do stuff. You do stuff every week, and being able to do that, I felt like has given me a leg up among a lot of people who did not either go to school or went to different programs. So, but because you have that basis to learn, and you have this basis of this very, very broad spectrum of knowledge from creative side to technical side, you're able to build on that no matter what. So I think for me personally, coming out was just learning how to light cinematically. And that, as a cinematographer, for me has been everything. Because you can be extremely good with a camera, but if you can't light and you're trying to create these images, it doesn't always work. Oh boy. Step one, in my opinion, is fully understanding what you're going to be shooting. If you know you're going to go into a remote area and you're going to be holding a camera handheld all day, and there's going to be fast-moving stuff, maybe you're covering like some sort of event thing there. Event's the wrong word. Some sort of ceremony, something like that. It's always really good to know, like, okay, no, maybe a zoom lens is going to be better than prime lenses for this, or vice versa. If you know you're going to be shooting in an area that's going to be very dark, utilizing fast prime lenses to be able to do that. So just knowing exactly what you're going to be able to shoot, especially with travel stuff, and being able to pack that or being able to source that locally is, that's kind of what you need to do. And then from there, once you know what you're shooting, you can figure out, okay, what do I have for crew? What can I get out there? Who can I bring with me? And then same thing with equipment. What can I get out there? What can I bring with me? But then depending on your country too, there's a lot of times where you can't bring stuff in. Or there are certain things that are illegal in certain countries as far as camera stuff goes. And then you risk, if you bring it in, getting seized by customs there. So you gotta almost think all right, well, if I risk this and have everything taken, is this gonna ruin the project? Can I find cameras somewhere else? What can I do? So it's a lot of problem solving when it comes to international stuff. Totally. Yeah, so I guess we'll go over equipment first because that's the easier one. Equipment, I just kind of looked at what things were going for in the market. So if I had similar equipment to what was available, like this Red camera. There's a camera rental house in Grand Rapids called Braincell that they have this, they have other cameras, they have pretty much everything. But, so I would kind of try and price that accordingly. So I wasn't undercutting them or they weren't undercutting me. But then I also had equipment that they didn't have that other people wanted, like anamorphic lenses to create like widescreen images like this. And so I was able to say, okay, well, this is something that they don't have. I can price this to what I think it should be worth in this market, which isn't necessarily the same price as what it's going to be in LA. So it is a lot of figuring out, but it's a lot of, all right, basing off of what you see already out there. But then it comes to rates, what you charge as a freelancer for your time. Oh boy, there are industry standards, but there are also rates that you're gonna have to give to get opportunities. Because when you're starting out, opportunities are everything. Again, no one's gonna wanna give you an opportunity to be a director or a DP right off the bat unless they know that you can accomplish the job that they're giving you. Because, I mean, that's just the way it is. No one wants to put money into something that they don't trust. Which is kind of a hard thing to hear at first, but that is it. And that's why I kind of stress, if you are starting out, just go and shoot. Go and shoot everything. Try, create, write. Do anything that you can to show people that you can do this stuff. Because everybody can. It's just a matter of doing it. And I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people, is how do I break in? Well, do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff, very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir.